answering some of our... So this morning we will be answering some of our most asked questions, and then at the end we'll open up the forum for anything we haven't covered. If you have any questions along the way, please feel free to utilise the chat facility, which David will be keeping an eye on. As you may just have seen, we will also be recording this session, so I would recommend that you keep your camera off if you're not happy to appear in our recording. So can everyone see the screen okay that David's sharing? You should have a slide that says, what happens if my tenant wants to pay their deposit in instalments? If you can't see that, give us a wee notification in the chat. Yeah, all good? Perfect, okay. So our system allows landlords and letting agents to pay the deposits in instalments. I know not everyone's happy with that, but obviously there are some people who want that service available. When you register a deposit, after you put in the property address and your landlord registration number, it asks you for the deposit amount and the amount protected. The deposit amount should be the full deposit amount registered in your tenancy agreement, and the amount protected is the amount that the tenant's physically given to you. So if you had a deposit of £500, say, and your tenant wanted to pay £100 a month for 5 months, when you register that deposit initially, you would put down £500 as a deposit amount, but the amount protected is £100. When you go through and make the payment, this will then generate a deposit certificate for £100, and it will create your deposit summary. The system then allows you to go in, as and required, to top up that deposit and make an additional payment. Every time you add more money to the deposit, a new deposit certificate will be issued to your tenant. This then lets them know that the money is being protected as per the government's guidelines. You do have to protect the deposit within 30 working days of the start of the tenancy, and any top-up payments also have to be paid within 30 working days of receipt. So please do not hold on to the deposit until the full amount is received and then register it, as that would class as a late protection. But it is something our system allows, and we do find it is really beneficial. The next question we get asked a lot is, what key information must be given to our tenants? So while SafeDeposits Scotland will issue the deposit protection certificate to tenants, the regulation states that the landlord or the agent must provide a copy of the prescribed information to tenants. This also has to be done within 30 working days of the tenancy starting. Our system allows for the prescribed information to be pre-populated. When you log into your account, if you go to the My Details section, below your information, you'll see 2 boxes. Anything on your PRT that refers to a deduction must be noted on the prescribed information. If it's for basic things like cleaning, rent arrears or damages, or any special clause that you may have for pets or oil tanks, everything must be noted on the prescribed information. The first box that you'll see, it'll ask you for the clause numbers. So you need to put down on your PRT any clauses that refer to deductions. And then the second box is the clause wording from your PRT. So basically just copy and paste over each clause, and that will then save on your prescribed information forms. That means that whenever it comes to issuing a prescribed information, you can just download it and it's there and ready to go. When you go into the deposit summary, you will see the tenant's name. If you click in this box, it will allow you to download the prescribed information as a PDF, but you'll also see a box that says custom forms. The system allows you to amend the prescribed information for each tenant. So if you had, say, 10 properties, 10 prescribed informations, and you had 1 tenant with a pet clause, on the custom forms, that will allow you to change their prescribed information, but only theirs. It won't affect all your other ones. What I would recommend doing is when you've made your payment, it'll ask you, do you want to print the forms for prescribed information? And it will then send them to the prescribed information requests on your account. This is a good way for you to keep track of what's been sent and what's still to go. Okay, so why does SafeDeposits Scotland advise tenants when a deposit has been lodged late? This is one of the most common questions we get. Scottish Government regulations changed back in November 2019 for all 3 deposit schemes in Scotland. By law, we now must advise a tenant when a deposit has been registered late, and then again when a proposal for repayment has been submitted. We do only notify the tenant that this has happened. We don't report it to the first tier tribunal ourselves, and the onus is on the tenant to then start proceedings. But by law, we must let them know that has been the situation. When you register your deposit, you obviously have a time period to pay it. If we have deposits sitting that are registered and not paid, we will issue an email reminding you as a courtesy, but the onus is on the landlord to ensure that it's protected within the 30 working days. We quite often get asked, can I update the tenant's contact details? And this is something that we're all for. It's really, really important for us that we have accurate information for the tenants, especially now with people working from home and a lot of stuff being done by email. When you log into your account, you go to the View Deposits and go to the green View Edit button for the relevant deposit. That will bring up your deposit summary and you'll see the tenants' names. There's an edit button next to each tenant, and on there you can update their email addresses, their contact numbers, and you can also change the lead tenant. So as you know, it's only the lead tenant that can respond to the proposal. So if you have two tenants and you've been dealing with one more than the other, or maybe if it's a couple and one of them's working away, you can change the lead tenant there so that the one that you're dealing with is able to respond. I would recommend, if you're maybe doing your checkout inspection, just to confirm the tenant's email address is still the same, especially if they've been with you for a few years. As I said, I can't stress enough how important it is that we do have the correct details for your tenants. What should I do if one tenant is moving out but others are remaining in the tenancy? So our system allows you to do a tenancy changeover, and I believe we're the only deposit scheme that allows for this to happen. And basically what a tenancy changeover is it allows for one tenant's deposit to be repaid and the remaining tenant's deposit to stay held in our system. So a tenant changeover is a 3-step process. It's initiated by the landlord or letting agent. The second step is the tenants, and then the third step is the landlord or letting agent. When you log into your account and go to the deposit summary, below the tenant's name, you will see a tenant changeover button. Now, if the lead tenant is a tenant who's moving out, you'll have to change the lead tenant first of all before you can complete your tenant changeover. When you hit tenant changeover, it will then ask you to confirm the tenant moving out and how much of the deposit they've to receive. The system will automatically split it equally amongst any tenants. So if someone's paid slightly more than another tenant because maybe they've had the ensuite, then just make sure the figures are correct. Then it's just a confirm button. That will then generate an email to the tenant, and the tenant will be asked to confirm they've moved out and to enter their own bank details. Once they do that, you then complete the third step, which is logging into your account, confirming the changeover, and the system will then ask you, do you want to add a new tenant? So if it's just the remaining tenants in the property themselves, you can continue with that. Or if you've got someone moving in to take that tenant space, you can then add their details and top up the deposit and make a card payment. We do have a new system coming later in the year, and there will be more information released about this, but the tenancy changeover process will be getting streamlined, but it is definitely a very useful facility to have. So what happens if a tenant doesn't respond to my repayment proposal? So either party can start the process. So a tenant or a landlord or agent can submit the proposal. After 30 working days, if the other party hasn't responded, then the proposal will be repaid as per your request. So if you've logged in, put in for the full deposit, and the tenant just completely ignores it, that will be repaid to you. If you have put in for money to be returned to the tenant, we will then hold that money until they contact us and give us their bank details. However, if the landlord doesn't respond to a tenant's proposal, the full deposit would go back to the tenant, even if the tenant had offered money to the landlord. So it's always really important from your side as landlord and agent to respond to the tenant's proposals. After 6 years, if there's any money left sitting on a deposit account, then the money goes back to the Crown. We do have a guy in our team called Andy, and his job is reuniting tenants with forgotten deposits. And believe me, it happens way more than you think. This is another really, really common question, probably our most common question actually. How do I work out deductions from the deposit that I need to make? This isn't something that we can advise specifics on. There's so many factors to come into account for this. The age of the item, the condition at the start of the tenancy, the quality of the item, was it a cheap IKEA coffee table or a mahogany antique table, the length of the tenancy. All these are factors that come into account. We do have some guidance documents on our website that explain everything that you should be taking into consideration. If you go to the website, click on Landlords and Agents, click on Guidance Documents, and then Adjudication Guidance. There's lots of information there. It gives you a guide to product lifespans, a guide to deductions, and there's also some previous case studies there that you can have a wee read through and see how it laid out. If there's any advice that I can give to you, is to make sure your inventory is strong. An adjudicator can't award for something that's not listed on the inventory. So please, please, please make sure everything's noted there in case there's any problems come the end of the tenancy. If you do have any more questions, contact our ADR team. They're really, really good and they're really, really knowledgeable, and they'll keep you right. Not something you would like to think about, but what happens if the claim exceeds the amount of the deposit held? Now, at Safe Deposits, we can only repay what we hold, which is the full deposit amount. That's the most we can ever pay out. But I do know that obviously if it's extensive damage, then you can go through the first tier tribunal. In those cases, when you're submitting your proposal, anytime you put an amount in repaid to landlord or agent, it will bring up a heads of claim and it will ask you to break down your claim, whether it's for cleaning, damages, missing items, that kind of thing. At the very bottom there, you will find an others field. And if you put an amount in that box, that will then open up in a text box. And in there, you can note the full extent of your claim. This would then let the adjudicator see the full picture of what's going on. And if for any reason they can't award a full amount for a certain head of claim, they can then look at the other deductions and exhaust all possibilities. What I would say not to do is reduce your figures to add up to the deposit amount. The adjudicator can only ever award what you've claimed for. So if you said that the cleaning was £250 to make it fit the deposit amount, when really it was £500, that's all the adjudicator can award as a £250. So please put down the full extent of it so that everybody can see what's going on and what's happening in the background. If you need any further advice, our landlord team can help with that and they can put the proposal through for you. So that's our top questions. Does anyone else have any further questions? Or is anybody anything they want to ask or touch on? Anyone at all? You can unmute if anybody wants to chat. Hello? No? Not to get any questions, anything we haven't covered, anything they want to ask? Oh, Mary's got a question.
Recently, the council changed the bulk uplift charges.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just waiting to finish.
Charges. So Mary said, recently the council has changed the bulk uplift charges and the landlord registration is saying landlords can deduct the cost from the deposit. So if, I think what you're referring to is if there's been items left in the property maybe that you're having to incur additional charges for to have removed, then obviously that's something that you can then pass on to the tenant. Depending on what the items are, if they are huge items that do require a bulk uplift, then that's certainly something that you could look into. How to do this with existing tenancies? It's not been mentioned. So that would kind of come under your cleaning and removal of items. There's always been a charge, I believe, for bulk uplift with the councils. I'm not sure what authority you come under. But yeah, it's certainly something that you could have if it's part of the cost for you to put the property back to a condition because the tenant's not fulfilled their obligations. So Liz has asked, what happens if you've filled out the clauses incorrectly in the prescribed information? Can this be changed? Is there any time limit for doing this? So the prescribed information does have to be issued within 30 working days of the start of the tenancy. So if your tenancy's started and you're out with that time frame, then unfortunately there's not a lot you can do. I would advise just having an honest chat with your tenant, maybe telling them that there's been a mistake and this is the updated version. But yeah, the prescribed information has to be issued within 30 working days from the start of the tenancy. Anybody else get any questions? If you want to come on and chat rather than typing, that's fine, not a problem, just let me know. I'll give it another minute or so just in case MD's typing something and don't want to cut MD off. Jeannie, it's showing me you're trying to connect to something. I'm not sure if you're trying to connect to the audio. That's it.
Do you provide CPD certificates for tenant as well?
I'm not 100% certain. We do provide CPD certificates for training. I'm not sure if they're accepted for the webinar, but I will find out and I'll come back to you. I've got your name here and your registration details, so I will double check and let you know. Not a problem. Anyone else get any questions? No? That is? Okay. We are obviously based in Glasgow. We're a really, really friendly bunch. So if you do have any queries or any questions about your account, you don't want to chat on here, please feel free to give us a call into the contact centre. Numbers 03333 213 136 and we'll be happy to help. No worries. Thank you so much for your time and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Cheers. Bye.